After 15 months at war, Eli returned home to surprise his wife, only to find the porch light dark, a strange car in the driveway, and the scent of another man inside. The wedding photo lay face down, the sounds from upstairs undeniable. He had survived war zones, but nothing prepared him for the betrayal waiting in his own home. Eli moved with a silent precision that years of combat had etched into his very being. He set his duffel bag down, the metallic scent of his dog tags mingling with the alien cologne in the air, then climbed the stairs. Each tread was a calculated, quiet ascent, his military training taking over. The muffled sounds from upstairs sharpened, growing clearer with every step. Rhythmic creaking, heavy breathing, a man's low grunt. The master bedroom door, a familiar gateway to comfort, was closed but not fully latched. A yellow light spilled through the crack. Through it, the unmistakable sounds of intimacy. Eli's world tilted. His body, however, moved with the calm control that had preserved his life in Afghanistan. He pushed the door open. The scene burned itself into his mind in brutal fragments. Tangled sheets, brown skin against brown skin, Imani's legs wrapped around a stranger's waist. Their wedding picture, placed on the nightstand, seemed to watch it all. Time stopped. No one moved. Then, Imani screamed. The man, muscular with dreadlocks and a tribal tattoo across his back, rolled off. His hand shot out, reaching for something on the floor. In the yellow lamplight, metal glinted. A gun. In Afghanistan, hesitation was death. Eli's training seized control. He crossed the room in 2 steps. He caught the man's wrist before the weapon could be raised, then drove his other fist into the man's throat. The gun clattered to the floor. What followed played out like a distorted, terrible dream. Imani's screams, the man gasping for air, but still swinging. Fists connected with flesh, bodies rolling on the floor. Blood sprayed across white walls. In the chaos, Eli's hand found the gun. The man lunged. 2 shots rang out. Then, silence. Eli stood in the center of the room, the gun still warm in his hand, staring at the ruins of his life. Imani smoothed her silk robe, a practiced calmness masking the tremor in her hands. The text from Jamal pulsed on her phone screen. "Almost there, baby." A flutter of excitement, quickly followed by a dull ache of guilt, settled in her chest. She scrolled past Eli's last message, a blurry photo of him smiling against a dusty foreign backdrop. "See you soon, my love?" Soon. Sooner than he knew. She and Eli, high school sweethearts, had built a life on shared dreams and quiet promises. His military career had given them stability, but it had also carved a canyon between them. Months, sometimes years, of video calls and fleeting visits had frayed the connection, leaving her feeling hollow, unheard. She loved Eli, or a version of him, but the man who returned from deployment was always a stranger, burdened by things she couldn't comprehend. Then Jamal appeared. Not a soldier, but a businessman. He was charm and ambition wrapped in a bespoke suit, a stark contrast to Eli's disciplined world. He saw her, truly saw her, or so she believed. He listened. He made her laugh. Their stolen moments began innocently enough. Coffee, then dinners, then whispered late-night calls that blurred the lines of fidelity. The thrill of their secret, like a potent drug, dulled the gnawing guilt. Her coworker Aisha had seen it. "Girl, you're playing with fire," Aisha had warned during a whispered break. "You keep dancing around this flame, it's gonna get someone burned. Can't stop going to get somebody killed." Imani had brushed it off, a forced smile. "It's not like that." But it was. It was exactly like that. Tonight, the plan was set. Eli was thousands of miles away, or so she thought. As she misted herself with perfume, a final message popped up from Jamal. "Door unlocked?" She sent a single, yes, then turned from the mirror, her reflection a woman poised on the edge of a precipice, unaware of the fall. The discreet chime of the front door announced Jamal's arrival. Imani descended the stairs, a forced lightness in her step. They exchanged a quick, hungry kiss, the aroma of his expensive cologne now mingling with her own. He handed her a bottle of champagne, a knowing smirk playing on his lips. "For our little celebration." Upstairs, the music played low, a smooth R&B track barely audible beyond the bedroom. They talked, they drank, their voices hushed, their laughter punctuated by the clink of glasses. "When are you going to tell him, Imani?" Jamal asked, his voice soft, yet insistent. The question had become a recurring motif, a shadow hanging over their stolen moments. "It's complicated," she murmured, avoiding his gaze, swirling the champagne in her glass. The weight of her double life pressed down, but the chemical courage and Jamal's presence offered a temporary escape. The hours blurred, marked only by the empty champagne bottle and the deepening intimacy. They were lost in their own world, cocooned by the low music and the thrill of their secret. Outside, the quiet street held no warnings. The elderly cab driver, Mr. Solomon, had pulled away without a sound. Eli had entered his own home with military precision, unnoticed. The slight creak of the front door downstairs, the soft thud of a duffel bag, were swallowed by the night and their blissful ignorance. Suddenly, the bedroom door swung open. The music seemed to stop. Their world in that single, horrifying instant exploded. Eli stood over Jamal Williams, then over Imani, his mind a blur of static. He checked Jamal first, no pulse. Then Imani, a shallow breath, a growing stain on her silk robe. The sounds of sirens, distant at first, grew louder, pulling him back to a harsh reality. He dropped the gun. When the first officers burst through the door, weapons drawn, Eli simply raised his hands, his face blank, his eyes mirroring the shattered world around him. He offered no resistance. At the precinct, Detective Malik Thompson, a man whose weary eyes had seen too much, viewed Eli as a classic case. A soldier, betrayed, snapped. "Crime of passion," he muttered to his partner. During the interview, Eli recounted the horrific scene with chilling calm. His lawyer, Chandra Davis, a sharp, unyielding advocate, hammered home the self-defense angle. Imani, meanwhile, underwent emergency surgery. Her parents, Kwame and Shani Morrison, arrived at the hospital, their faces a mask of shock and grief, unable to comprehend the nightmare unfolding. The news ripped through Chicago like a wildfire. Social media became a battleground of opinions. A hero wronged, a cold-blooded murderer, a wife betrayed, a husband betrayed. Headlines screamed conflicting narratives. Inside his cell, the noise of the world faded for Eli. He stared at the concrete walls, the question echoing in the silent space. When had his life veered so far off course? Detective Malik Thompson, however, couldn't shake a feeling. Something felt off about the neatness of it all. Classic crime of passion, his gut said, but his instincts, honed over decades, whispered dissent. Jamal Williams's background report painted a picture of a rising entrepreneur, but a closer look revealed a history of shady dealings, a record recently expunged. Why? Officer Thompson, a junior detective with a keen eye, stumbled upon the first fracture in the clean narrative. Imani's phone. Recovered from the nightstand, it held a trove of deleted messages. Not texts of a passionate affair, but something far more chilling. Discussions about life insurance policies, specific questions about military deployment schedules, casual mentions of break-in attempts from months prior that now seemed anything but random. Eli's service group life insurance recently increased. The pieces clicked with brutal clarity. This wasn't just an affair gone wrong. They were planning something much bigger. Malik felt a cold dread settle in. This was a calculated scheme. He moved fast, a grim determination setting his jaw. At the hospital, Imani was recovering. He walked into her room, her parents Kwame and Shani hovering nervously. He held up a printout of the texts. "Ms. Benjamin," he began, his voice low, steady. "We found something. Messages about your husband's life insurance. Discussions about his deployment dates." The color drained from Imani's face, leaving her a ghastly white. Her eyes darted, searching for an escape that wasn't there. Eli's brother, David Hayes, visited him, bringing news of the community's outpouring of support. Eli listened, but a deep, quiet despair seemed to cling to him. He regretted every single choice that had led him here. Detective Malik Thompson's investigation pressed on. Subpoenas for bank records, revealing large, unexplained transfers between Jamal Williams's accounts and a shell company linked to a known hitman. More deleted messages surfaced, not just about insurance, but cold, clinical conversations about taking care of the soldier problem. The conclusion solidified into a horrifying certainty. Jamal and Imani were planning to kill Eli. The affair was a distraction. The real target was his insurance money. The news hit the South Side with the force of a hammer. Public opinion, once divided, swung decisively against Imani. Detective Malik Thompson held a press conference, detailing the larger criminal conspiracy that had unfolded. He laid out the evidence, the texts, the financial transactions, the cold premeditation. In her hospital bed, Imani broke. Faced with irrefutable evidence and abandoned by Jamal's associates who vanished into the wind, she confessed. Her voice was weak, laced with a pathetic self-pity. "He'd wake up screaming," she mumbled, tears streaming down her face. "The nightmares. I was scared of him. He wasn't the man I married." But Aisha, Imani's co-worker, provided crucial testimony that directly contradicted this. She painted a picture of Imani's growing ambition, her resentment of Eli's absences, and her infatuation with Jamal's promises of wealth. The ultimate blow came from Jamal's phone. Recovered from the crime scene, it contained a cache of self-recorded videos. In them, Jamal and Imani discussed the details of Eli's impending death, his travel schedule, and how the insurance money would set them free. Imani's voice, clear and chilling, actively pushed for the plot, her words dripping with a calculated greed that erased any pretense of fear or desperation. The evidence against Imani and Jamal's associates mounted. New charges were filed, including conspiracy to commit murder. For Eli, the discovery of the murder plot was a grim salvation. The prosecution, seeing the premeditated nature of the attack against him, reduced his charges to voluntary manslaughter. The narrative shifted entirely. Eli, once seen as a vengeful husband, was now a victim who had acted to save his own life. The community rallied. Support poured in, letters and messages of solidarity filling his inbox. Even Imani's parents, Kwame and Shani Morrison, reached out, expressing their regret and backing Eli. At his plea hearing, Judge Nia Johnson made an unprecedented statement. She acknowledged the unique, harrowing circumstances, the depths of betrayal Eli had faced, and the trauma he had endured serving his country. It was clear the court understood the impossible situation he had been forced into. Eli was released on electronic monitoring, awaiting the next steps in the legal process. He walked out of the courthouse to a chorus of camera clicks and shouted questions from reporters. He kept his gaze fixed ahead, ignoring the commotion, the air thick with unresolved tension. Imani's trial loomed, a final, brutal chapter waiting to be written. Her fate and the conclusion of this devastating saga hung heavy in the air. Imani's trial was swift and merciless. She rejected all plea offers, clinging to a desperate, unconvincing defense. But the weight of the evidence was crushing. The texts, Jamal's phone videos, the financial transactions, the testimony from the hitman's associates. Assistant State's Attorney Zola Adebayo's closing argument painted a stark, unflinching picture of greed and cold-blooded intent. The jury, after only a few hours of deliberation, returned a guilty verdict. Judge Nia Johnson delivered the sentence, 25 years in prison. Imani's wails echoed through the courtroom as she was led away, her parents leaving without speaking to anyone. The aftermath rippled through Chicago's South Side. Jamal's car wash empire was sold off to pay legal settlements. His children from a previous relationship received most of the proceeds. Eli resigned from the Army, accepting a medical discharge with full benefits. He started counseling at the VA, slowly beginning to process the layers of trauma and betrayal. Eventually, he began speaking to veterans groups, sharing his story, a difficult journey towards healing. The house where it happened, the one Mrs. Dubois remembered, sold quickly, gutted and renovated by new owners, the blood-stained floors replaced. 1 year later, Eli sat in his new apartment, sunlight streaming through the window, holding divorce papers. His hand hesitated over the signature line. Memories flooded back. Their high school prom, their wedding day, all the homecomings and farewells. He stared at the blank line, wondering if he could truly move on, if the echoes of that summer night would ever truly fade. Eli finally signed the divorce papers. The pen scratched softly against the legal document, a quiet, definitive sound. It marked an ending, yes, but also a fragile new beginning. The weight that had pressed upon him for so long seemed to lift, replaced by a sense of quiet calm. Outside, Chicago continued its ceaseless rhythm. New buildings rose, old ones adapted. People loved, they lost, they healed, they moved on. Life, for the most part, returned to its routine. But in certain quiet moments, in the spaces between heartbeats, the echoes lingered. Of gunshots on a humid summer night, of trust shattered like glass, of a soldier who came home too early, and a wife who plotted too late. This story, like so many, reminds us of the profound cost of betrayal. It illuminates the hidden dangers that can lie closest to home, within the very fabric of our trust, and it speaks to the complex, arduous path to healing from unimaginable trauma. It compels us to consider the deeper themes of trust, the far-reaching consequences of our choices, and the enduring resilience required to navigate the landscapes of our lives. What are your thoughts on betrayal and resilience? Share your perspective in the comments below, and if you found this story compelling, please like this video and subscribe for more eyewitness true crime narratives.